So if I asked you, what do you think a learning and development professional does, you probably immediately, like most people, will think about the word training. Oh, you're the person that creates and deploys trainings for the employees in the company. While that is correct, of course, that is a big part of what L&D professionals do. It's not the whole story. And honestly, I have been working for 6 years in my career so far, and it's my favorite job that I have and the most enjoyable job that I had. So that's why I had to make this video today, to share with more people of the world what we do in L&D. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sakura and I live and work in Tokyo. Today I'll be specifically talking about what L&D looks like in the world of tech or tech companies, because that's where I am at right now. So just a quick disclaimer that this doesn't encapsulate every single thing within the L&D field, but this is just my personal experience. And a lot of people think that getting into tech means that you have to have a tech position, like an engineer position, product manager, software engineering, whatever. But the truth is, a lot of people, such as myself, have non-tech roles, and that's why I wanted to open up this world to you. So let's dive in, let's get to it, because we have a lot to cover about L&D. If I were to explain learning and development in one word, it would be enablement. So you help others do their best at their job by making learning opportunities and trainings to help make that happen. That's why this job always attracts people who really care about people, who are in the people business, that think, oh, I want to help others. I want to enable others to be their best self. And that kind of people empowerment piece is really big for people that usually join. But there is a caveat to this I'll get to later. And like any other job, why does it exist? Like, why do we need L&D people in the organization? At the end of the day, what an L&D professional should be doing, in my personal opinion, is adding value, like strategic business value to the company by helping to enable others. When I talk about enablement, I am, of course, talking about that people empowerment part or piece that I talked about, but the bigger part, what the company actually hires you to do, is ensure that people are doing the best at their job so that they can perform and obviously make more money for the company, right? Or whatever the goal it is that the company has. So all of this to say, it is extremely naive of me to say that L&D is mostly about people empowerment, because it's only part of it. The reason why companies hire L&D professionals is so that they can reach their strategic goals, and L&D people can help you do that, help the employees get there. So your mindset should not be, I want to just make people feel good about their jobs, but more strategically being a business partner to the organization that you're supporting. Now let's do a little bit of a deeper dive into the areas of L&D. And what does L&D look like in tech? Like, what kind of a position exists within a tech company for L&D? I would say there's majorly 5 areas that I want to cover today. The first one is about training, delivery, execution, or coordination. So these are the people who are helping to deliver the training. So you probably have really good communication skills, doing seminars, doing trainings in live person. And if you're also an L&D coordinator, you'll probably be the one looking at the back end of things. So helping to coordinate the trainings, making those calendar invites, making sure all the equipment is there so that we can deliver the training smoothly, making sure everybody has the resources that they need to start and end the delivery of the training smoothly. The second area is instructional design. When you make a training, it's really easy to imagine like what you would think about and stuff like that, but there's actually, again, a lot more that goes into it. So what are the learning theories about how people learn, how adults learn, and what kind of methods are best to use in the training itself? How do you deliver training in person versus online? How do you create a module? How do you not overwhelm learners with so much information that they can't learn anymore? How do you follow up with people best in training so that they can retain what they learned? So if you look a little bit deeper, there's a lot of detail and a lot of theoretical knowledge and a lot of skills that you need in order to create an effective training. And that's what instructional designers do. So instructional designers, I'm seen get into that role by being in a different L&D role and then pivoting into that. But there's education specifically for curriculum design and training design. So a lot of people that I see going into this field are people who have experience or have been a teacher before even. in building curriculum and again, just like designing the whole training. The third one is program managing. So there's a lot of different trainings that go on in the company, right? But there are some bigger pieces or bigger programs or learning opportunities that you might see. A program manager will see those end to end. So they're the ones that either help maintain the delivery of those programs. You know, if they're already there, they'll maintain it, but they're also, you know, kind of the ones that help initiate these new programs as well as looking at them end to end. So this one I think is a little bit transferable, meaning that if you're in a different field that does a lot of program managing, this might be a good option for you to consider because it is really high and wide. The fourth area that I'll talk to that I'm not really sure if it's like a big thing, but I have seen it before is analytics. So many parts of the organization obviously needs data to understand the progress of whatever that they're measuring, as well as helping to improve things, right? So analytics people within a team, whether it is L&D or HR or whatever it is, takes a look at a lot of the important data that we get and collect within that, I guess, organization, and then use that to make meaningful conclusions or suggestions to the organization saying, hey, we should do things this way, we should do things that way. So again, this is similar to program management in that you don't have to be, I think, like an L&D person really to be in L&D analytics, but it really helps to have like an HR background while also doing data analytics. The fifth one, last but not least, is about leadership. Leadership L&D is a little bit more niche in the sense that you do need to be a little bit more skilled or tenured maybe in order to get into this field. You may have to create or program manage learning opportunities for people who are managers or leaders in the company. So obviously with that, you do need to be highly skilled in what you do, understand the nuance of leadership, be able to understand big ideas that you may have to take into consideration when you create these types of opportunities for learning. And I think this particular area that I've seen is quite interesting, and I'm personally interested in as well, because you do have to think about people development and not just skill development. What I mean by that is most of the time when you do L&D things and trainings, you're helping to upskill people in the skills that they need to do their job. But obviously the other big aspect is personal development, right? And I do see this leadership type of L&D programs that we need is a little bit of a heavier mix of both. So again, you need to be a little bit more strategic, and it has to have really, you know, good business impact and effects on the trainees. And that's quite a high, kind of like a high risk, high reward, or more like the stakes are much, much higher than just other L&D areas, right? A lot of times it's really hard to get into L&D and tech right away because, as I mentioned, the field is extremely competitive, especially in tech, and there are so few roles of L&D that everyone wants to get into. So my advice, if you're looking into going into tech in L&D, is to get experience somewhere else first. Like try to be an L&D specialist, an L&D coordinator, L&D whatever, in different fields. Or even if you're a teacher, if you're doing curriculum design, etc., like focus on that first before being able to apply your skills into L&D and tech. L&D and tech is special because it is more high-paced. Things change a lot all the time. The stakeholder management is crazy because there's just so many parts and organizations that you work for. Something to keep in mind is how much of a role do you want to have in this field. The bigger the company that you're working at, the more siloed you'll be into the role that you're in. So what I mean by that is if you work for a huge company, right? Like, I don't know, Google or something, and you may be a L&D coordinator, you may only specifically actually do the coordination of the trainings and nothing else. For my example, I'm currently doing an L&D lead role in a small to medium-sized fintech company, and I'm looking over the Japan region. So all the areas that I just told you about, besides the leadership training in L&D, I do a mix of everything and mostly focusing on program managing. If you want to have a more creative role where you have to problem solve, where you have to kind of be a jack of all trades, I highly recommend going into a role that seems more for a smaller company or like takes up a lot of these areas instead of just one. But if you want to start out and kind of just see the feel, like what could potentially be there and just dip your toe in, I would recommend trying to find this specific area or role that you want to do and then start from there. Now I want to end this video by talking about a few misconceptions of this field. So the first misconception is that L&D is part of HR. While a lot of L&D organizations or maybe positions could be in HR, that's not always necessarily the case. One example is personally my example where within the company, there's the customer service or customer experience organization, and I directly support the operations for L&D for this organization only. So obviously there's tons of other organizations within the company, but I specifically support this one, and therefore my L&D team called Consumer is actually under the same umbrella as the customer experience. So we're not anywhere near HR, even though we do people services or people, operations, right? That doesn't really necessarily affect a lot of the things that you do, but if you do want to keep in mind this fact, a lot of the leadership that you will follow then will not be like an HR person, but maybe be a business person. This will help you kind of orientate towards the goals of the organization, which can help you understand what you need to do to add value. But again, that's not always the case. There's also specific roles within L&D that cater towards people operations, so there's positions like that too. The second misconception of L&D is that it's all about that people empowerment. And again, I want to bring this piece up. What I misunderstood and what I want you to know going into this field is that people empowerment, again, is just one part. Like, you are enabling and empowering people in a specific way, yes, but the skills that you are teaching may be more like business critical skills, right? So there's two facets of L&D, I think. So one is like the people development, right? Like professional development, career development, etc. And that is like I wouldn't say niche part because it is a big program and stuff, but it's like a very people HR oriented kind of L&D that people mostly imagine when they hear about this field. But in reality, I think the bigger aspect and field of L&D is within the business, right? So that's it. I still have lots and lots and lots to learn. I'm nowhere near like an expert in this field, but I do know that I really enjoy it, and I hope that if you are interested, it caught your attention as well. This video was focused specifically on what L&D is, the different areas and key concepts, but I do want to make a separate video about how to get into L&D. What kind of key skills do you need? What can you do in your current job before to make sure you can get yourself the biggest chance to pivot into this field? What kind of people from like what type of backgrounds join this field? So if you're interested in L&D now, please feel free to subscribe to my channel and stay tuned because I will make that video on how you can pivot into L&D. If you like this video, please feel free to subscribe, like, comment, whatever, engage with me because I really want to talk to you and hear from you, and I'll see you in my next video. Thank you. Bye.